It's been a while, crocodile. Yeah, sorry about the intro. I've been doing a Tarantino marathon recently. Anyway, how's it going? I'm Adam, and welcome to my channel. Well, today we're going to be talking about a camera that is near and dear to my heart, the Leica R8. And just like Tony the Tiger once said, it's great. I hope they don't sue me. I've had this camera for about a year now, and it is the Shrek to my donkey, the Batman to my Robin. It's been with me to rainy London, beautiful Edinburgh, and the one and only Berlin. With this camera, I have created some of my favorite photos. I mainly wanted to do this video because I'm running out of ideas, and also I feel like it's sort of a hidden gem because usually when you hear the word Leica, you probably think expensive or the YouTuber special. But they actually made an SLR camera, and it was one of the more advanced film cameras of its time. Anyway, more on this camera later, and now it's time to shoot this thing. I decided to spend the weekend at the port city called Gdynia here in Poland. I checked into the hotel and decided to get to work. Enough messing around, let's put in some film. I loaded Kodak Vision 3 250D, a cinematic film stock that for the past year has become my go-to color film. It's cheap, at least where I get it from, and it's just that great. The one thing that's really cool about the Leica R8, it is probably the easiest loading system out there. You just pull it towards the red line, no spool, no nothing, and just close it. So it was time to go to my first destination that was pretty near to my hotel, the port. And here is where I got ready for the first shot. I like this photo. It has nice contrast, and thanks to the water sort of being black, the white boat and orange colors work nicely, unlike my Pentax 6.7. So just like the best movie ever made, Space Jam, the Leica R8 was released in 1996. This camera was intended as a clean break from the previous generation of cameras and was supposed to be the SLR camera to have, the one. Now, if you're like me, you don't have much of a life, so you spend all your time looking at memes, you have probably seen this one. The previous cameras were actually a collab with Minolta, gang, and were based off their cameras at the time. But in 1990, Leica said, "We got this one," took their sweet time and made it in-house, making it solely Leica. Now, upon its release, it actually got mixed reviews. Some actually praised its build quality and innovative features, while most were skeptical about its unconventional design and heavier weight, sorta like me, receiving its popular nickname, the Hunchback of Psalms, due to its hunch on top of the camera housing the viewfinder and pentaprism. That's an interesting design choice. I definitely won't be walking around here during midnight. I made it towards the side of the port that houses some cruise ships and even Polish Navy ships that were used during World War II. For example, the ship called Błyskawica, which loosely translates to lightning bolt. Okay, let's get to know our camera. The build quality of this camera is great, but it is on the heavier side. Now, starting from the top, here's a shutter speed dial, going from 16 seconds to 1/8,000th of a second. And of course bulb. This little flat thing is the shutter button, and on top here's where you switch metering modes, going from selective metering, multiple field metering, and integral metering. I just leave it at the square with the dot, and the metering is great every time. Here's the viewfinder, It is clear and extremely bright. Here's the exposure compensation lever, which gives you 3 stops plus minus in half stops increments. And the most important thing, this little wheel here is where you turn on your camera, going from manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, program, and flash. And right next to the advancing lever, there's a button with the letter R. You press it, and then you just flip this thingamabob and rewind your film. Also, you could do double exposures with this camera. There should be a tab here, but sadly mine's ripped off because, you know, the listing said mint++, but there should be a tab just like in this video, and you just slide it up and down to do those double exposures. This is probably my favorite photo off the 250D. The two people chilling on the bench, looking out towards the sea, and having the lighthouse between the poles is a vibe. Anyway, I was sort of running out of ideas of what to shoot. Then I spotted these photographers who are way more talented than me, and I did what I do best, steal their shot. So on the back we got a small LED screen, and we gotta flip it in order to change the ISO. Now to change the ISO you gotta half press the shutter, then you just press this button. It goes from ISO 6 to 12,800. You know, if you ever want to push CineStill 50D 8 stops. Here is the self timer. You can choose either 2 seconds or 12 seconds, cause why stick with the classic 10? Here is where you open the back and load your film. You just put your film here, pull the spool towards the red line, close it, and then advance to frame 1. Honestly, this is probably the best loading system that I have seen. Now on the book cover, we got the depth of field lever. I personally don't know anybody who uses it, but if you do, you're in luck. Here is to switch lenses, you know, if you can afford any other lenses. Here's a mirror pre-release switch. First shutter release press activates the mirror, and second activates the shutter. And finally, here's the flash connection socket with 2 modes. Which are these? It's definitely an advanced camera with way too many features for me. Oh, and obviously this camera doesn't work without batteries. Sorta like me without watching 3 episodes of BoJack Horseman every morning. It takes 2 6V CR2 lithium batteries, and to open the battery compartment, you slide this metal switch and pull the hand grip down. And to be honest, it is a pain to do. I think we're done with the port area. Plus, we already finished the roll of 250D. So now, it's time to eat. Oh yeah. After I finished stuffing my face, I decided to load in some CineStill 800T. Now, you must be wondering, CineStill 800T is a tungsten balance film and you're trying to shoot it during the day? You're crazy. Well, I might be, but you can sort of get away with shooting it during the day if you overexpose it 1 stop. So essentially shooting it at 400 ISO. But it is still a colder look for sure. I actually tried this last year and the results weren't half bad. So I decided to get a quick round of street photography before going to my next destination. This is probably my favorite off 800T. The colors are perfect and the pose of the person definitely makes this photo interesting. Now speaking of bangers, here's where I thought I had some absolute heat. But it turns out the results were ice cold. Literally, because it's bluer than that dog who checks for clues. Anyway, I decided to wait for better lighting before I go to my next location. So I got some coffee and chilled for a bit. Let's talk about the lenses. Well, I feel like the word sort of got out about Leica R8 glasses. They are incredibly sharp and well-designed lenses. And because of that, a lot of people actually use it for filmmaking, and some people even use it for non-Leica R8 cameras, making it incredibly expensive nowadays. Now, it is important to mention that there are a lot of different Leica R8 lenses out there, and it's pretty easy to get lost in it. I did, going from the Leica Flex era to the R8, R9. Apparently, it's important to use the 3-cam, R only, or ROM lenses for this beast. And having the single cam or 2-cam can actually damage your camera. And I actually have that one because it came with the camera, and back then I didn't know that it could damage it. But the results are pretty great in my opinion, and it hasn't damaged it yet. Anyway, the lighting was better and I made it to Kamin Nagura, aka a nice viewpoint where you can get a great view of the city. And yeah, I am not a fan of none of these photos. It feels a bit touristy and I feel like I've seen these compositions at least 100 times on Instagram. So I decided to get lost and find a better composition. Alright, so I decided to go a different way. I found a new one. I don't know if it's better, but at least it's something different. Well, the composition is better, but definitely a bad choice of film stock. I feel like Portrait or even Lomo Purple would work perfectly. Alright, so that's about it for today. We actually did a lot. We finished 2 rolls of film. Tomorrow I actually have an early train. It's around I think 11 or 12 a.m. But I still want to get 1 roll in before that. So I'm gonna wake up at 6 a.m. and probably head towards the beach and at least try to finish a half a roll. Let's talk about accessories. There are actually a lot, and even an interesting angle viewfinder that I don't think I'll be rocking in the future. A winder and a motor drive. This camera is pretty big without it, so I imagine adding a motor drive will make it impossible for hikes. And possibly the most interesting thing is the digital module, also known as DMR. It can switch your Leica R8 to a digital camera, giving you a whopping 10 megapixel photo. There were actually only a small amount made, so if you're lucky enough to even find it, it'll probably cost at least a couple of months of rent. So I didn't wake up at 6 a.m. cause I'm a failure, but I still decided to head towards the beach to get at least a half a roll done. And the roll would be HP5 pushed 2 stops. So yeah, I sort of wish like life was like Lightroom. Exposure down, highlights down, because it is way too bright. Honestly, I don't even know why I bring color on trips. Black and white is all that I need. I like this photo. The solo subject and the simple composition is great. Not too much and your eyes go where they need to go. And that's the end of the roll and the video. thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. The Leica R8 is definitely a camera that is really special to me, and it was my first really good 35mm film camera. It was with me when I was a terrible photographer, and it taught me what I currently know, which is this camera has everything that you can possibly need and even more. And some might not agree with me, but I definitely think this camera is a looker. I actually enjoyed the design. Plus it has great metering, and thanks to the high shutter speeds, I was able to shoot HP5 push 2 stops during an extremely bright day. I couldn't recommend this camera enough, but to be fair, there are cons. Even though the body is extremely cheap, the lenses are yikes. If you want to have multiple lenses, you just might have to delete Uber Eats from your phone permanently. Another con, even though the build quality is amazing, it is on the heavier side, and after a couple of hours, you'll probably feel it. Now, if you've been watching my videos lately, you've probably seen me rocking the Nikon F3. That's because it's lighter, and I definitely value that in my cameras. Plus, for the price of one Leica R lens, I can get 3 Nikkor lenses, because after all, being able to invest in your camera system is really important. Also, another con, it is fully electronic, but it is a relatively new camera, so the chances of something going wrong will probably be 10, maybe 15 years. But if it does, well, good luck trying to fix it. I'm still waiting on my Pentax 6.7, and it's been 6 months now. It doesn't look too good. So yeah, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. Take care.